Hello, Georgia. Hello, Augusta. And hello, wherever you are. This is Janice Allen Jackson welcoming you to the July 3rd edition of Local Matters, a show designed to make you a more confident voter and a more engaged citizen. As always, today's show is brought to you as a service of my consulting firm, and that is Janice Allen Jackson and Associates, where we provide services to local government and nonprofit organizations. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the YouTube channel of the Local Matters Podcast of Georgia. And we also ask you to follow our Facebook page. When you do, you will get more information that will help you on your journey of becoming a more engaged citizen. Today, we are going to feature a special guest. She is a return guest. She is Miss Traci George. But before we get to Traci, we're going to frame this conversation. Like most people in this country, or many, I won't say most, but like many people in the country, I watched the debate in its entirety, the presidential debate last week that was held in Atlanta. And of course, I have followed a lot of the news coverage that has come out since that time. There have been serious discussions about the fitness of both candidates, quite frankly, to be in office. I think the conclusion of much of what I read from the more unbiased sources was that people are not necessarily comfortable with either of the candidates. Looking at the age of both, looking at the history in particular of one candidate, the criminal convictions on that end, and people are wondering, hey, why is it that the Republicans have allowed this person to continue to be their nominee, given those convictions and an apparent criminal history? On the other hand, people are asking if President Biden is indeed fit to continue, given his performance in that debate. The question has been, was that one bad night, or was that a reflection of his continuing state on a day-to-day basis? So today, Ms. George is going to come in. She is a delegate to the Democratic Convention from right here in Augusta. So I felt like she was uniquely qualified to bring us the point of view from the Democratic side. I did not have a Republican that I knew of to invite, but I will say this in Local Matters land: if there is a Republican who is interested in coming on the show, I would be more than happy to have that point of view presented as well. Because as you know, here on Local Matters, we do not endorse candidates, we don't take positions, but we provide information to help our listeners make good decisions for themselves. So, with that backdrop, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, the New York Times, both have written editorials that I've read in detail. And those of you who are part of the Local Matters family know that I subscribe to both of those papers online. So I get a chance to read that content, digest it, and think about it. It just made me believe that it was the right time for us to take on an issue of this significance as we prepare for the November elections. Today, we're going to explore the likelihood that either one of those candidates steps down, particularly, again, from the Democratic perspective, since Ms. George is a delegate to that convention. What's the likelihood that we see one or both of those candidates not be on the ballot in November? What are some of the obstacles that might stand in the way of making any change at this stage in the game? I think we look at it, we think, oh, it's early July. The election is not until November. That's several months. The conventions have not taken place yet. So some of the political pundits have said, oh, yeah, both parties have plenty of time in order to make a change. But as I analyze the situation and review other news articles, it appears that that is not necessarily the case. Just because of the way the rules of the respective political parties are set up. And Ms. George will get into the whole business of delegates having been pledged to candidates. Parties each, I think, have made some changes to their rules over the years. In particular, the Democrats have. And I think there is concern among both parties that if there are changes at this stage, it could throw those conventions into chaos, which would not be a good outcome or good sign for those parties. So we'll hear directly from Ms. George. Again, we thank you so much for being a part of the Local Matters family, and I hope you enjoyed this discussion today. Local Matters family, today we are doing something really different. You know that typically we cover things of local and state interest, but today, because there's so many important things happening in our country related to the presidential election that will take place in November of this year, we're going to deviate a little bit and we're going to talk about a national topic. I think many of you witnessed the presidential debate that took place last week. And there has been lots of conversation, there's been lots of concern about the respective political parties and where they should go with this. So today I have invited in Miss Traci George. She is a resident of Augusta, Georgia, and she is a delegate to the Democratic National Convention. So we thought there would be no better person than to come in and sort of talk about where we are and where she thinks our country is headed with respect to that election in November. How are you doing today, Traci?
Good morning to you. Good morning to everyone listening, or good day whenever you're going to end up listening to this. I say hello to you. I thank you for inviting me in to share my thoughts, my opinions, and how I'm feeling. And while your show is Local Matters, I indeed qualify, validate that I am right here in Augusta, Georgia, and I am as local as you can get, born, raised Augusta, Georgia. And I do then touch the national aspects of all things political, as I am a national delegate headed to the DNC in August. So I'm here to discuss and answer questions that you have for us.
Thank you so much. I think this is going to be really helpful to sort of sort out some of all of this conversation that has gone on in the last week. We have had editorials from the Atlanta Journal Constitution,
Hmm.
the New York Times,
Hmm.
all of the talking heads on TV are
Hmm.
sorting out what happened. And I just kind of want to bring it down to a more realistic
Certainly.
level so people can really think through
Most
what
certainly.
is happening. So I appreciate your presence on Local Matters today. First off, though, before we get started to talk about Biden and Trump, let's talk some about how it is that you became a delegate. One, is it your first time being a delegate? And two, what's the selection process for becoming a delegate to the Democratic National Convention?
Most certainly. You all know very well I do a lot of community advocacy. I am out there in the streets running and really amplifying the voices of the people, not just my district when I ran for office, but I've crossed the plethora of being even employed by Senator Warnock. So I know state level issues as well, and how to mobilize people. So then becoming a national delegate, I represent CD12 along with Mr. Frank Williams and Mr. and Mrs. Fire. They're over in Columbia County. And we represent you as your national delegates out of the Greater Congressional District 12. We were elected by other voters that showed up to cast their support for us. And then we'll go on, like I said before, to the fuller August convention for Democratic National Convention. We'll go there and we will nominate Joe Biden to be the presidential nominee, and endorse him as our nominee for president for the Democratic Party. To become elected, there is a selection process where they validate and they vet your work in the community. They vet if you are a stand-up person who supports democratic values. And also, too, they also check your voting record to see how you've been voting. And so with those things, I was pledged to be a Joe Biden delegate, because then we know in our primary here, presidential primary, he won all of our delegates. He really was the only person on the ballot. And we stood by that because he was the incumbent, because of the work he and his administration has done for the people of the United States, and then also for right here in Georgia. And I'll discuss that as we move on in our conversation today. So between that election period and then the actual convention in August, we're expected as delegates to galvanize and mobilize and also just pull people together around uh, the election and the campaign, and to speak two different narratives and be abreast of different conversations and champion then the cause of making sure voices that are not heard are heard, where we're able to sit at different tables to ensure Joe Biden at the end of the day becomes president of the United States. As I am going to the convention, I then call for you to assist me in getting there and also to assist me in doing this work. And I tell people, like, the dream is free, is given to you. You see the need that's rising, but I'm about to put up my QR code. If you all could please, please, please donate to this campaign to help me get there, that is the link. Many of you already know my social medias, Traci George, Facebook. Really, that's where I drive all things. It then links out to my Instagram. You'll see that link there again. Please direct message me if you have questions. Want to have this extended conversation? I'm being asked to come and talk in your communities. I'm welcome to do that. I also help you plan events to get out the vote. And there are a lot of things that are going to be coming up. And I even have some secrets and surprises I'm excited about that will be extended to you later on in this year. So please, I'm going to put the QR code back up again. Please, please, please donate. Just take a picture of that and you'll go out to my GoFundMe. If you want to send me a Cash App, that information is out there as well. So please, please help. I thank you for everything that you're doing. Even if you send me, please send me these. Just little words of encouragement. You know how to text me. You know how to reach out to me. 706-850-8295. So if you want to text me a word of encouragement, text me how you want to reach out. Please, please, please. There's a place for you also in this campaign. So don't hesitate to volunteer. Thank you for that short little plug.
Yes, and thank you for that. I will say, Traci, if you get the information to me when we post this on YouTube, we can put in the description,
Nice.
we
Thank
can
you.
put your information related to your Cash App and the link to your Facebook page and those sorts of things so people
Thank
can get directly to the link if the QR code wouldn't work in today. Okay.
thank you.
All righty. Because then sometimes it's like, oh no, it's not coming up and all this kind of stuff. So yeah, we'll have the link out there when we post the episode. This episode is on YouTube as well. It'll be on SoundCloud, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts under the Local Matters Podcast of Georgia. So there are lots of ways that you can figure out how to get in touch with Traci. A couple other things I wanted to make reference to. I want to follow up questions on. You mentioned being elected as a delegate to the convention. Elected by whom?
So if you are a registered voter in the Congressional District 12, we had elections. Don't get me to remember that exact date right now. My brain has frozen on that. We had elections and we had a room full of folks who then went through the whole voting process. Delegates got up, we said speeches, and we cast our vote. And you saw that on my Facebook page as well, where I was pleading for voters to get out there, and I had to reach out for voters and say, this is where we're voting on this day. Get here and actually vote. And it was an on-site vote that occurred. And once they finished at the end of the day, Mr. Frank Williams, you know Uncle Frank very well in the community. I love him
And
dearly.
the organization that he represents
New
is,
Georgia Project, yes. And he's boots on the ground, New Georgia Project, yeah. And then he was the first person, he was number one vote getter. And then I was number two vote getter. Were only separated by one vote out of the room. So that process happened. And it is very strenuous and it's also very tedious to get those voters out there. Diane Barack Evans is also going with us. I didn't mention her name earlier. So she's also going as one of the delegates, national delegates. So you have different types of delegates. You have your excuse me, your district level delegates. Then you have, oh, I forgot this one too. You have your party elected official delegate, and then you have something that's called like a super delegate. So even Senator Harold Jones and Kathy uh, Frederickson, they are some of our party leaders from Congressional District 12. They're also going to represent us from Congressional District 12. And I say that because we are local matters. I have a plethora of friends across the state who are also delegates. And don't get me right now, my math is off. I think we have 170 delegates
That's what I was
total.
going to be my next question.
We have
170.
170
Okay.
total. I am excited. And you did ask me something I want to go back to. This is my first time and being a delegate and what have you. So no, it's not my first time. I know many people who have been delegates. My first time being a delegate was in 2016. My family was living in Alaska. And it is uncommon though for someone to then be a delegate in different states multiple times over. So 2016 was my first time being elected as a delegate, and they have a whole different voting process in Alaska, and it does vary by state to state. Then in 2020, I was a national delegate again for Joe Biden here in Georgia, which is my hometown. I was home state. I was born, raised in Georgia, and now I'm a delegate, a voted in national delegate again in 2024. It is uncommon for someone to be a delegate that many times. And people say, well, now you become status quo. And I think, no, not really, but then maybe so. I don't know. It's sort of unique. This is then not my first out of the three times going to the convention. As you know, I come from a political civic rights legacy. My grandmother, Mrs. Gladys S. Acree, she went to conventions back in her day for different presidential
I did not know that.
contenders. She did. She did. So when the convention was in Atlanta and it was Jesse Jackson running, we
Mhm.
actually went up there to support him. And it was so weird. My family were discussing. We were coming down the elevator, and he was there in the elevator. I was like, "Wait a minute, that's Jesse Jackson!" And it was cool because then when I went off in 2016, when you go to be a delegate, they choose your host hotel suites, right?
Mhm.
So the Honorable Jesse Jackson was actually staying in the hotel that we stayed in 2016. And then what's really, really cool about this particular convention, 2020, due to COVID, we didn't have an on-site convention or in-person convention. This year is our first time coming back together. The convention will be in Chicago, August 18th through the 23rd. We all know that my dear Jesse Jackson lives in Chicago. So me running across him again, that running theme of he was the presidential nominee in the Atlanta convention. My grandmother helped do some of that work then. My first time becoming a delegate, 2016, as I was checking in, he literally checking into the hotel. He literally was standing right behind me and said, "I remember you, little girl. I know your work. We watch your we watch your advocacy." And then having that conversation, that was really cool. I have to go back and repost these pictures on Facebook so people can tap in and see this work. And then, I've kept in touch with him over the years. And then now I'm going back to Chicago, where is his hometown. So hopefully I'll cross his paths in person, again and we'll reconnect. So it's going to be really cool.
All right. That is great. So one other thing, I appreciate the explanation. One other thing for our listeners, because we're here at Local Matters, we're here for education. You were talking about raising funds, being in Chicago for essentially what, 5 days, 6 days,
Yes,
something like that.
yes, yes.
So,
So because there's greater work to do once we get on the ground, a lot of us land in Chicago days before the actual convention, as you know, and organizing and trying to get together. And COVID taught us a great lesson of how to do a lot of this stuff virtually, but there's nothing like in person, touching the person next to you work to get it done. So when I'm raising funds to help me go, it's for the smallest of things that I can pay for snacks. And I'm not having to come out of pocket to keep my energy going for snacks, for stuff like I go through my first conventions. I would go through like three for my cell phone. I would go through mobile portable hotspots. I would go through like at least two of those a day. So I
Mhm.
buy multiple ones so I can have some charging and then recharge myself as I'm going through the day and having to move throughout the city to go from meeting to meeting and organize and stay engaged in this process for then the voters back here on the ground. So I ask for support and stuff like that. I won't tell you the fees are associated. This year, the Biden campaign have absorbed a lot of our fees, but we're still expected to show up. And that is then us making that contribution that we are here in this and fighting for then our voters back here at home to make sure their voices are heard. So we do have some fees that we have to come out of pocket to take care of, which is only fair.
Okay. And in addition to your travel and lodging and all of that stuff.
Correct. You're correct.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. That's a lot. And I don't think I know that as I sit there and watch a political party convention on TV, it never dawns on me all of the money that has to be spent to make sure folks can get there. And you're on your own in terms of getting that money. Either you can afford to do it on your own or you
Yeah,
can raise funds. I mean, you've got to
correct.
make it happen. It's on you to make that happen. Thanks.
Correct. So a lot of behind the scenes work that I do as well. In 2016, I'm coming out of Alaska. Alaska was one of the first caucuses. Remember, they caucus, they don't vote primary wise. So that caucus there, and it was really good to see at a per view high level coming in and first star perspective that delegates galore across the nation in 2016 we're going to need help in getting to the convention. So I launched then No Man Left Behind, and I ensured that all of my presidential nominee delegates got to the convention, and we raised funds across the nation to get them there. This year, Georgia was sort of, we're lagging in our primary date, but it didn't stop my efforts. And we're ramping up those causes over this month to actually come to make sure, again, that no one will be left behind. Some delegates have already succeeded the amounts required and needed, and whereas some delegates have not, what we then do at the end of the day, it is known that Tracy George is going to raise funds. So I then share what I raised with another not well known delegate, not as well known delegate, and ensure that that person is not left behind. So as you're giving into my pot, and you'll see some number figure is out there exactly like our targeted goal, I say, help me beat that, because I am that type of person where I ensure the person who is rooming with me that they have everything that they also need. I share my resources, and you all see that I am that type of person here in the Augusta, Georgia community. I share my resources galore with swag and with ensuring different businesses that I run that people have what they need. But thank you for helping.
Okay. All righty. And thanks for the explanation so people really know what they're donating to, being asked to
Yes,
donate to.
yes.
All right, let's jump to our topic of the day today. There are lots of things that have been printed. One of the ones that I found most interesting, I'm just going to read some excerpts from on Newsweek. This flashed across my timeline yesterday. Mark Cuban apparently went into Chat GPT, which I don't use a whole lot. I've used it once, I think. But he went in and asked about the presidential debate. And this is what he heard. In a post shared to X, the social network formerly referred to as Twitter, Cuban said he asked GPT which politician the AI bot would hire for a job based upon the transcript of the televised debate broadcast from CNN. The business mogul said he tasked the generative AI tool with choosing the best candidate based upon communication skills, clarity, problem solving abilities, and overall professionalism. According to Cuban's post, the pros for Biden include extensive experience in public service, empathy, and social awareness. However, the cons for the 81-year-old included a lack of coherence and clarity and focus and consistency. For Trump, Cuban said the bot applauded Trump's assertiveness and confidence and economic focus, citing the 78-year-old's emphasis on financial performance and business acumen. However, Cuban wrote that the chat GPT criticized the former president for using hyperbole and exaggeration, slamming his grandiose claims that might raise concerns about his reliability. Cuban also said the bot called out Trump for a lack of specifics, suggesting the Republican tended to avoid providing detailed solutions or plans. Concluding the post, Cuban said that ChatGPT would not choose either candidate for a job based upon the debate results. It would be challenging to decisively hire either candidate without further evaluation of their professional capabilities and specific job fit. Since being shared on Sunday, Cuban's post has received over 3.3 million views, and Newsweek reached out to him. Um, Although the post suggests dissatisfaction with both the likely Democratic and Republican candidates for November's election, Cuban has so far thrown his support behind the president. So there's more in the story, but I just wanted to throw that out because even though it's Chat GPT, and like I said, I don't even use the thing, but it seemed to hit a nerve that is similar to what a lot of people are saying, wondering what the fitness is for both candidates, wondering if there is time for both parties to do better. Is there a scenario where both parties could show up at their respective national conventions and make different choices coming out of the conventions? And that's kind of where I want to start the conversation with you.
Understood, understood. So I am going to respond that first off, aren't we glad that AI does not at the end of the day vote for us? And we need all hands on deck November the 5th to get out there and vote for President Joe Biden as then our next president of the United States of America. That is ultimately the ending of that conversation. What is galvanizing and being very compelling is that people are seeing and caring, and that's what I'm hearing, a care about this issue of who will become our next president. And we need to stand by the person who has shown you over these past 4 years exactly who they and their administration are to be. If you want to reflect back to President number 45, his administration was unfulfilled. He fired most of them. And then at the end of the day, when he finished his presidential term, those offices were still left vacant. President Joe Biden currently has a full administration who has been on the ground and is still ready day one of this November 5th election date to continue doing the work of the people of the United States, bringing jobs, ensuring that our economy is on track. This inflation discussion, no, things have to grow with the times. Yet we have jobs, and especially the small business administration and their backing of African American small businesses, even right here in Georgia, the influx of those things. There's no need for this extended conversation of who can get the job done on day one. That's President Joseph, and I love his name, Robinette Biden, along with Kamala Harris as his vice president pick. That's where we stand, and that's what needs to happen. Now, to understand the greater thing that happens at the Democratic National Convention in August, it is going to be called on us as delegates to, once again, sign our pledge nomination into writing. I will actually be given a piece of paper, and I will take up a vote of who I am picking to be the presidential nominee for the Democratic Party. I have no hesitation in letting you know that based on all facts on the table, I watched that debate. I saw everything, even the stuff behind the scenes. As you all know, I'm a behind the scenes, making events happen type of girl. I saw it all. I know who's running this campaign. There are people running this campaign. Quentin Falk, he was my boss when he ran Senator Warnock's campaign here in Georgia. He is now the primary principal deputy for President Joe Biden's presidential 2024 campaign. I understand it. I trust those people who are running this. And I can tell you that on November 5th, I will be voting for President Joe Biden. When I get to the convention, every single day, they will take the vote for what the delegates are doing. I will sign my pledge again and again and again that President Joe Biden is ready to take up the helm and continue this work along with his full administration.
And as you say that, I know it is in recognition of a lot of the things that the Biden administration has accomplished over the last 3.5 years.
Mhm.
Are there particular things that stand out for you, um, that you want people to know about? That's the reason for the support that you just discussed.
Yes, I think what stands out is that they have done a a concentrated effort to reach people of color or the BIPOC community. They have a seven-figure investment focused on reaching Black, Latino, and Hispanic voters. And then also ensuring that offices are going up to reach these voters. And I didn't want to tell the secret and surprise. I'm in interviews to continue that work in those campaign offices. They've done campaign work around healthcare, reproductive rights. As you all remember, back in February, I sat with the Vice President Harris down in Savannah and discussed during her reproductive rights tour why this maternal health matter is of such issue, especially to our African American community, and recognizing then what it's going to take to ensure that we are not left behind there. I told you before that they are definitely pitching hits to Small Business Administration. Um, Hats off on Neek West and her work right here. The the Greater
Augusta
Augusta
Black Chamber
Black
of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce. She's been funded here to ensure that our businesses are running and have resources that they need. That came down then, he's trying to make it as local as possible. That came down then through the Biden Harris administration. So they're doing good work on the ground, and we should not then just vacate that because of what one debate showing was.
And as you say that, a couple of things I want to point out. One is, yes, Miss Traci George is here to talk from the Democratic perspective. If there are any Republican delegates to the convention who want to come in and talk, you're welcome to be a guest on Local Matters as well. Just reach out to me.
And I
Um,
would like to put out
I
there
can
as
do
well
so.
that on July 11th, I just got, if you see me looking down, I am constantly steady paying attention to news feeds. Watch the narratives that's going on. Yesterday, we noticed what the Supreme Court put forward. We don't have kings and queens here in the United States of America. We have presidents. We have proven people who have shown you who they are, right? So that Supreme Court hearing came out yesterday. July 11th was supposed to be set for a hearing date of what has already been given 34 conventions on President number 45. They just rolled on from CNN that that hearing, which was set for July 11th, will be pushed back. He has a convention that then rolls out, the Republican Party convention that rolls out a few days after that. Yet they're ignoring and pushing to the side facts. I am here to bring you facts, legitimate facts that are on the table. You can't just push truths to the side, they still stand. Go to whitehouse.gov and you can see the administrative facts. There are state guide sheets, plethora of information given to you that you can follow along and see the truths, and don't read into the narratives that then get pushed and erased. And then they only want to tell you one side of the story. You can read things for yourself. Do not be just strong along. It's not just Traci George telling you this information. I'm reading from websites that's out there, proven information. Okay, folks?
All righty. As you say that, you talked about some of the things that have been accomplished and what you believe has impacted us a positive way here locally in the Augusta area from the
Mhm.
Biden administration. Do you think I know if you go into the convention, that's what you plan to do. Do you think there is any chance that between now and August, when you go to Chicago, that President Biden will just say, hey, I'm stepping aside?
Absolutely not. There's procedural protocol processes also in place that no, we have things to do and get hand. Remember, the Biden Harris administration, I bring that up for a point. Biden Harris administration has made a difference, whether including inheriting this economy that was left in shambles, and pulling it apart. Job growth has happened. Capping the insulin, that was even Senator Warnock, capping the insulin benefits and ensuring that here, even in Augusta, Georgia, that patients who need that medicine are able to access it. Having a record-breaking 1 million Georgians being able to get health care through the Affordable Care Act. And we saw in the debate what someone said about affordable health care and even a reproductive abortion. Uh, don't fall in for those narratives. There have been even business applications. Hats off again, Ronique West pushing that up right here, making it local. The public service loan forgiveness, student loans being forgiven. Why would we then just want to up and vacate work that has been done for millions of people? Why would we want to push that to the side? We must thank President Joe Biden for investing in America's agenda, our companies, and also the people of Georgia specifically. We cannot vacate that work. We shouldn't. We should not do that. We
Okay.
need even go on and discuss the infrastructure, the clean energy projects. There's a whole highway that's being going to be built that's going to come Savannah through Augusta, headed out all west. Why would we vacate that important work that's getting done right here? When we saw what happened during the previous administration, I didn't have a voice then. I posted on my personal Facebook page just the other day. Um, hey, one of my favorite shows is Bridgerton. So, dear gentle readers, hear my voice. Yeah, it was during that previous administration that I suffered my greatest travesty of my life in 2017, a great loss, and I became a Gold Star wife, spouse. And that same administration was pushing Gold Star benefits to the side. I got those benefits restored under current administration. And you want me to then vacate? No, sir. No, ma'am.
Okay. So you don't think there's a chance that Biden will
No,
decide
sir.
that,
No, ma'am.
he's
No.
not the best choice at this point?
Only choice at this point.
Okay.
I
Um,
persuade anyone out there as other here, even in I have those records too. We have important Republicans here in Georgia who are already saying that they're pledging their support and their vote to President Joe Biden on November the 5th.
okay.
I think everyone then need to go ahead and pick up the ham and do the exact same thing.
Okay. And now, if another Democrat, you don't think it's going to happen, but just practically speaking, how realistic is it that a new candidate could come along at this time? Because I've heard some of the TV pundits say, "Oh, they have time. They got plenty of time. The election's not until November." Is there really time if President Biden were to step aside and you all go to the convention, then you're forced to select somebody else because he has stepped away? Is there really time for another Democratic nominee to do everything that needs to be done in order to run a successful campaign in November?
President Joe Biden has already committed to standing by and becoming the presidential nominee. So in August, between then and now, I don't see him not being a continuous man of his word to want to step aside. He said he's in it. He said that Thursday night he is in it to win it. And we're here then to secure the nomination for him. And then also after that, do the work that's going to be required from August to November to get that vote out. That is hard, heavy lifting work, from raising the federal campaign finance dollars, from going out there and polling so that we can organize to understand that get out the vote efforts. And then also, you can't abandon the protocol process of the administration. No, he's in it to win it. That's it. President Joe Biden will become our nominee. All of the delegates that are then going to the Democratic National Convention in August, we are set and pledged for him to become that nominee. I sit in delegate talks, and none of us are running with this step aside narrative. We understand the work that's at play and that needs to get done to steady our country. And what I have, again, remember, I've been in this work a very, very long time. I have never seen the outpouring of what we call it crossing the bench. I have never ever seen before as many people coming from the GOP side to say, I am here to bring support to the democratic process. How do we get this work done? How do I ensure that my fellow Republican neighbors, friends, family members are voting for President Joe Biden on November the 5th? Why then are you asking me for President Joe Biden to step aside? And what would that process even look like? That's unthinkable. That's unthinkable. That's unheard of. That's not where we are today. The step aside narrative is not a conversation or up for debate because it's being generated by AI bots. Those bots are then paid for by an operative who's shown you they know how to erase history and keep conversations that need to be discussed January 6th on the table. An administration that failed you on the table. COVID, when that happened on the table. Those conversations aren't being talked about.
Now, I will say that particular bot said that they wouldn't hire either one of them. They weren't happy with the apparent Republican nominee as well. But obviously you don't represent the Republican Party, but it appears that they're in it with Trump as well, even with the convictions and the hyperbole and everything else. It seems like we're guaranteed to have a Biden Trump part two on our agenda, on our
And
ballot
so
agenda.
we've already done the polling and we see where we need to get out the vote for President Joe Biden. And again, if you would like to reach out for me, I'm now going to give you my email address, Mrs. Traci George at gmail.com. Let me know how you want to get started in having that positive, productive, proactive conversation.
Okay. All right. And as you say that, does that mean that you're available to go out and speak to groups to talk in more
Oh,
detail?
yes, totally.
Yeah,
Most
okay.
definitely. That's a part of my work as being a national delegate.
Okay. That is
Yes.
considered part of the work. Okay. All right. Very good. As our listeners kind of process all of this, is there anything else you want to share with them before we close out this episode?
Most definitely. You all already know through my previous conversations how to get ready to go vote November 5th. You know where to go and get your registration done. You know how to check if you're registered and also what districts you're going to be under. Not only is Joe Biden at the top of that ticket, we need to vote every Democratic seat down ballot. It's so vital and so important as we're watching what happens and then the results after we get people elected into office who then rise in ascension of the ranks. Please go out and support people who are working hard, boots on the ground, Traci George, to get this work done. Then vote November 5th with things in mind. Who has already brought to the table work to get done? I didn't even mention in this administration, we have so many Georgians. I've not seen it before. So many Georgians on the table having this conversation at the national level. They're already hired, so they know you. They're your neighbors. They're your family members. They're right here in from the state of Georgia doing this work at the national level. We know what's at risk. We have 3 Supreme Court justice seats up during this next administration. We see Project 25, and we've read that 900-page narrative. Don't allow it to become a reality. We can stop that. We have a full administration already in play. Let them continue the the good work. Many of them are my friends. Many of them are honorable. I stand by their work. They're wise men, knowledgeable women there, ready to do this work. I can then also show you in various other ways through my work on the ground where you can get involved. I'm having an event on July the 13th with a group who trains women and those who identify as women how to become a candidate and then support candidates in that role of putting their names on the ballot and getting engaged to become the next representatives.
And thank you for mentioning that because that was one of the things I wanted to bring up in our conversation. Event takes place July 13th. Is that right?
13th, yes. I need you to register so you can get all the full details. Uh, July 13th. That link, well, I'll just have to make sure you get that one as well, okay? But
Yeah,
July 13th,
the
definitely.
flyer is actually on the Local Matters Facebook page. We posted the flyer already with the updated date. But yes, people, please go register. And I do want to emphasize that because a lot of people will say, I want to go run for office, but they are not prepared in the least for everything that entails. So
Yeah,
can
so
you just talk a little bit about
Emerge is a
that?
national organization, and I pled with them to seek outside of these metro hubs that there are so many knowledgeable and already just there are people there who want to do this work of becoming a candidate, but they need to be educated in the process. So hey, they took me at my word and said, "You're right, Traci. We've done incredible work of getting people registered. It has really been, whew, overwhelming to me how many people have shown interest that we move the date so that we can make sure that we're steady to engage more people and have them in for this conversation. I am excited. I am so excited. I'm excited for what 2024 holds and it's going to bring about. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be
Saturday,
awesome.
July 13th,
Saturday, July 13th.
10 a.m. Is that right?
10 a.m. It is
Okay.
at 10 a.m. And also, too, I forgot to mention this important part. Usually these trainings, usually these conversations, I've paid to be there, and they can be upwards of like $700 and above. And I've had to raise the money so I can go and sit at those tables. I've made this one free for anybody who could get there. So you better get there because they're not often free.
Oh,
Please do not overlook this occasion, July 13th, right here in Augusta, Georgia.
awesome. Awesome. Traci, thank you so much for
You're
continuing
welcome.
to be a part of the Local Matters family.
Thank
Um,
you. Thank you.
we'll have the information in down below related to the Emerge event as well as the GoFundMe or Cash App information in order that people can support you and as well as your Facebook profile so folks can learn more about who you are and your work in
Thank
our
you.
community. All right. Be blessed. We certainly hope that that discussion was enlightening for you. We ask that you please join Local Matters next week when our guest will be Grovetown City Councilwoman Soretta Smith. She is going to talk about a literacy initiative that she has embarked upon and how we can help solve this problem for our young Georgians and, in fact, young residents of our entire country. Thanks so much for being a part of our Local Matters family.